The ending of I Will Find You finally answers the mystery that has driven the entire series. Matthew was never murdered, and David was innocent all along. But the finale goes much deeper than solving a kidnapping case. It becomes a story about obsession, identity, family, and the devastating consequences of believing a lie for too long. The biggest revelation is that Hayden Payne kidnapped Matthew because he genuinely believed the boy was his biological son. Years earlier, Hayden became obsessed with Rachel and secretly arranged for his sperm to be used through the Payne family's fertility center Berg. When Cheryl used Rachel's name while exploring donor options, Hayden misunderstood what was happening. Later, when Matthew was born, Hayden convinced himself that Rachel had secretly had his child. That mistaken belief became the foundation of everything that followed. Rather than verify the truth, Hayden built an entire fantasy around it. He kidnapped Matthew, framed David for murder, and spent years raising the boy as Theo Payne. The tragedy is that Hayden wasn't motivated by money or power. In his own twisted way, he believed he was protecting his son. That makes him far more dangerous because he justified every crime as an act of love. The finale strongly confirms that Matthew was never Hayden's biological child. Rachel reveals that Cheryl was already pregnant before she ever went to Berg. The supposed connection Hayden had spent years obsessing over was based on a misunderstanding. Even worse, Gertrude knew the truth. The final blow comes when Hayden demands answers from his mother. Gertrude finally admits that she manipulated the DNA results years earlier and told him what he wanted to hear. In other words, the entire Payne family conspiracy was built on a lie. The one thing Hayden believed justified all his actions was never real. Gertrude's death represents the complete collapse of Hayden's identity. Throughout the series, Gertrude is the architect behind many of the Payne family's cover-ups. She constantly protects the family name, manipulates evidence, and encourages Hayden's delusions whenever it benefits the family legacy. When she finally admits she lied about the DNA results, Hayden realizes he sacrificed everything for a fantasy. He lost Rachel, he destroyed David's life, an innocent child died, and none of it was for his son. At that moment, Gertrude becomes the personification of the lie that ruined his life. Shooting her is Hayden's final act of rage against the truth he can no longer deny. One of the most emotional moments in the finale comes when Matthew willingly offers to go with Hayden. At first glance, it seems shocking. Matthew has just learned that David is his real father and that Hayden kidnapped him. But Matthew is still a child. For years, Hayden was the man who raised him. Even though Hayden is a criminal, Matthew's feelings are understandably complicated. He doesn't want Rachel to die, and he believes sacrificing himself might save her. The scene highlights the emotional damage caused by the kidnapping. Matthew's identity has been split between two lives, and he is caught between the man who raised him and the father who never stopped searching for him. Hayden doesn't let Matthew go because he cannot accept reality. Even after learning the truth about the DNA results, Hayden continues trying to convince Matthew that they belong together. That's the core tragedy of his character. Throughout the series, Hayden ignores evidence. He rejects truth. He rewrites events to fit the story he wants to believe. When everything finally falls apart, he still clings to the illusion that Matthew is his son. The dream becomes more important than the truth. Before everything ends, Hayden tells Matthew that he's the best thing that ever happened to him. It's the one completely honest thing Hayden says. For all his crimes and delusions, Matthew truly was the center of Hayden's life. The problem is that love without respect, honesty, or freedom becomes possession rather than family. Hayden loved Matthew, but he loved an idea of Matthew more than the real boy. That's why his relationship with Matthew was ultimately doomed. The line "I found you" is the emotional payoff to the entire series. For years, David was called the murderer. He lost his freedom, he lost his reputation. Most painfully, he lost his son. Everything he endured was driven by one goal: proving Matthew was alive. When he finally says those words after rescuing Matthew, it confirms that his search is over. The title "I Will Find You" suddenly takes on its full meaning. The promise was never really about solving a mystery. It was about a father's refusal to give up on his child. The ending is about the difference between possession and parenthood. Hayden wanted Matthew because he believed Matthew belonged to him. David wanted Matthew because he loved him. That's the central contrast between the two men. Hayden built an entire fantasy world around Matthew and tried to force reality to fit that fantasy. David accepted painful truths and spent years fighting for the chance to be a father again. In the end, truth wins. Matthew is reunited with his family, David's name is cleared, the Payne Empire collapses, and the lie that destroyed so many lives is finally exposed. The ending is mostly happy, but not completely. David gets his son back, yet neither of them can recover the years that were stolen. Matthew admits some of his childhood memories may never return. David's father dies shortly after finally meeting his grandson. Many emotional scars remain. Still, the finale ends on a hopeful note rather than a tragic one. The series argues that family is not defined by blood tests, legal documents, or even lost years. Family is defined by the people who keep showing up for each other. That idea is captured in David's final promise. No matter what happens in the future, if Matthew ever gets lost again, David will find him. The mystery may be solved, but the finale leaves us with a simple message: real love doesn't give up, no matter how long the search takes.